Welcome, dear students. I am Ragini Malani, your science teacher. You know me very well. How are you all? Hope all of you are taking good care of yourself. Now, due to the COVID-19 lockdown, I am here to help you to maintain flow of study. Hope you all will enjoy and try to explore more about the today's topic. I tried my best to teach you with many diagrams and activities. And do you know that today's topic is very, very easy. And that is what? Matter in our surroundings. And children, this chapter is completed in 2 parts. So just check both the videos and get the chapter. So let's begin our chapter. Now, chapter 1, matter in our surroundings. Now, first question which arises with the name of the chapter, that what is matter? Matter is everything in this universe that occupies space and has mass. Matter is everything in this universe that occupies space and has mass. Example, air, water, stones, sand, clouds, pencils, books. All these are matter. Why they are matter? Because all of these things occupy space and all of them have some mass. Now, the second is what? What is the constituents of matter? According to the earlier Indian philosophers, every living and non-living thing is made up of 5 basic elements called the Panch Tattva. 5 basic elements, what are they called? They are called Panch Tattva, like air, water, earth, sky and fire. Therefore, we can say that matter is a composition of these 5 constituents. Now the question arises, what is the physical nature of matter? Is that matter is continuous or particulate? Now see this diagram. In this diagram, it has shown that matter is made up of so many particles. So we can say that matter is a particulate in nature. This means that matter consists of particles, as you can see in the microscopic image of the cube above. For example, if we put a drop of red color in water, the color of water turns to red. This happens because the particles of red color mix with the particles of the water. Now the question arises, what is the size of these particles? Now size of these particles is very, very small, we can say that. And we know that these can be broken into further particles. We have done so many times in our daily life also. But here the activity is also given by which we can see that matter is made up of very, very small particles. Now first of all, we have taken a purple color ink in a beaker. And when we dilute it slowly, you will see that the ink is diluted and it changes, it is becoming lighter and lighter. Now in the 4th time, what you have seen that the ink is changed into light pink color. The color of the beaker, the color of the water changed to light pink color. And what does this mean? This means that there are millions of particles present in the color which just divide themselves on dilution. Now, there is one question for you. Out of these, which of them is a matter? Like, out of happiness, air, sandwich, thoughts, juice and eraser, which of these is a matter? Now we know that matter is what? Matter is the thing which occupies space and have mass. Now think that which of these occupies space and has mass? Like, answer is also given here, air, sandwich, juice and eraser. They are called matter because they have mass and they occupy space. And they can be broken into further smaller particles. While can you break happiness or thoughts? No, we cannot break. They are not occupying any mass. They are not occupying any space also. They do not have any mass also, because they are just emotions. So now the next is what? Next point is, what are the characteristics of these particles which are in very smaller? What are the characteristics of these particles of matter? Now, particles of matter have three characteristics. First is what? They have spaces between them. Second is what? The matter particles are always moving. And third, the particles of matter, they have some force of attraction between them. So these matters are attracting, the particles of these matter are attracting each other. Now, moving on to the first one, and I'm going to explain this first one with an activity. Particles of matters have spaces between them, and how can you say that? Have you ever wondered what causes sugar to get dissolved in water? What is the reason behind that sugar get dissolved in water? Sugar get dissolved in water because their particles have spaces between them. Sugar is a solid and it has spaces between them. The particles of the sugar get in between the spaces between the particles of water, which is a liquid, and a mixture is formed, a solution is formed. Now see this, particles of matter, when we are adding sugar in the water, what happens when we are adding more sugar inside it, and when we stir it continuously, we'll find that the level of the water will not increase and sugar get dissolved inside it, and we are not able to see that sugar in the water, and the level of the water is also do not increase. This shows that particles of matters have spaces between them. Now the second point is what? Particles of matter are continuously moving. Now see this diagram, and you see that the matter particles are moving here and there continuously in any of the direction. Now what we can confer from this? We can confer that particles of matter are in motion all the time. Hence, what they possess? They possess kinetic energy. Now the question arises, what is this kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is nothing. It is an energy which is produced due to motion of the particles. The particles of matter intermix on their own with other particles of matter. Now, this is called what? This is called a process called diffusion. For example, salt in water, various gases in the air, ink in the water, and this process is called diffusion. Now, diffusion is what? Diffusion is process of mixing two different types of particle together is called diffusion, and it becomes faster on heating. And this is also explained with the diagram. This is the diagram before diffusion. That can you see those red color particles which are present between the yellow color particles, and they are at one corner. But later on, after diffusion, what happened? Those red particles scattered in all other particles of yellow color one. This shows that the particles, the kinetic energies of particle is also increases on heating. Now the third point, coming on to the third point, which is what? Particles of matter attract each other. Now, do you know that all these solid liquids and gases, they have a kind of attraction between them, and the particles of matter are always held together because of the force of attraction between them. And this force of attraction is highest in solids, then in liquids, and then in gases. The amount of this force between the particle varies in different forms of matter as shown in the figure. Now, which is having the highest force of attraction? In the figure, by looking in the figure only, you can say that solids have the highest force of attraction. That is why we cannot move our hands through a solid object, because the particles are very, very tightly bound. Now, can you see this one? Liquid. We can also move our hands through water or liquid matter, but not as freely as we can move in the air. This means that they are also loosely bound to some extent. Similarly, the particles of gases have the least force of attraction between them. We can move our hands easily in the air, can't we? This is because the particles of air are loosely bound. The particles have very least force of attraction. So, by summarizing all these things, we can arrange the force of attraction between different types of matter in increasing order as the gases has the least force of attraction, then the liquids have little more force of attraction between them, and the solids which is having the highest force of attraction. Now children, but this at the end of this, no, I just want to say you that there are the states of matter, and we know that there are three kinds of states of matter. Till now we have studied the three types of states of matter: solid, liquid and gas. Now there are two more states of matter which I will discuss at the end of the second video, and those I'm going to explain to you at that time. There are two more kinds of states of matter. So total there are 5 states of matter. Now first of all, the states of matter like the solid state. Now solids are the objects that have these properties. What are the properties? They have a specific shape. Yes, you know that they have a specific shape. They have distinct boundaries. You know that solids have some boundaries, boundaries, and they are inside that boundaries only. They have a definite volume also. And there is a less kinetic energy among the particles in solids. And you know that kinetic energy is what? It is the energy which is produced due to motion. And as the particles of solids are very closely packed, so they have a less kinetic energy. They are generally arranged in an order. So they are arranged, the molecules of the solids are arranged in an order we have seen in the diagram, and thus what happens? They possess a fixed shape. They cannot be compressed. Why they cannot be compressed? Because the molecules are so tightly bound that we cannot compress the solids. And the last property of solid is what? The force of attraction is the maximum among the particles of solids. There is not much space between the particles, and that is why the compression is very, very less. And sometimes if they'll compress, it is due to some other reason, but the solids have cannot be compressed, we can say that. Now one question for you students: which of these are solids? Rubber band, sponge or salt? Rubber band, sponge or salt? Now rubber band is a solid, sponge is also a solid, and salt is also a solid. All of them are solids, and all of these follow the properties of solids. Then how can they change the shape? This rubber band can also change the shape. Sponge can also change. You can feel that sponge can compress easily. And salt, when we add this salt in the water, we'll find that the salt dissolves in the water. So is these three are solids or something else? No, these all are solids. A rubber band and sponge change their shape only when we apply force onto them. It might appear to you as if salt is taking the shape of the container in which you put it, but actually each of its grain has its own definite shape. So we can say that rubber band, sponge and salt, all of these are solids. Now coming on to the second state, and that is what? Second state of matter, and that is what? The liquid state. Liquids have the following properties. Liquids have a fixed volume like solids. They have a definite volume. Liquids, but they do not have a fixed shape. They do not have a definite shape. And the force of attraction in liquid particles is less than solids. We have already discussed this, that the force of attraction in liquid particle is less than solids. We can move our hands in liquids easily. Therefore, there is a space between the particles of liquid and they can flow easily. They cannot be compressed. That is why they are also called fluids. Now the last property of liquids is what? Particles of liquid arrange each other is not fixed. You might have seen that liquids take the shape of the container in which we put them. This is because the particles of liquids have a high kinetic energy and they always keep on moving. So they have a higher kinetic energy than solids. And what is kinetic energy again? Kinetic energy is nothing. It is an energy which is produced due to motion of the particles. And as we know that the particles of liquid are arranged little loosely, so they have a high kinetic energy than solids. Now the question arises, can other matter diffuse into liquids? Yes, other matter can diffuse into liquids, whether it is solids, liquids or gases. And why? The reason is what? This is because there is a space between the particles of liquid. So particles of other matter can slip into those spaces. Now the examples of diffusing solid into liquid is mixing sugar in tea, diffusing liquids into liquids, mixing ink in water. Ink is also a liquid, water is also a liquid, and we have seen in the upper one activity I have shown you where we have dissolved an ink in the water. And diffusing gases into liquids, the presence of oxygen and carbon dioxide in water. We know that these two gases dissolves in liquids, and that is why the aquatic animals can take carbon dioxide, and even some mammals can take oxygen also, and all those things. So the gaseous state. Now gaseous state is what? Gases have the following properties. They do not have a definite volume. They do not have a definite shape also. We have already learned all these things in earlier classes, that they do not have a definite volume. They do not have a fixed shape. Now the third is what? The particles of gases have the least or almost no force of attraction between them. Therefore, the particles have a large number of spaces between them and they can freely move in any direction. And due to that movement, what happened? The kinetic energy is maximum. So also they can be easily compressed because the particles are very loosely bound. So what happened? They can be easily compressed and put into a small container, unlike solids and liquids. Now the next property is what? Since there is a lot of space between the particles, different gases can diffuse into each other easily. There's a lot of space. Now the last property, which is we have already discussed, that kinetic energy between the particles is the maximum in the case of gases. And why it is maximum? Because the particles or the molecules of the gaseous state are freely flowing. Therefore, the particles move around freely at high speed and there is no fixed shape of gases. Now, I have given you in a tabular form the difference between the characteristics of states of matter, solid, liquid and gas, so that you can summarize everything and easily. Now I can read for you that solids have definite shape, liquids have indefinite shape, gases also have indefinite shape. Solids have definite volume, liquids also have definite volume, but gases do not have definite volume, they have indefinite volume. Now, the maximum force of attraction is in solids. Now, less forces of attraction between particles compared to solid. And in gases, there is a negligible force of attraction between particles. Cannot be compressed. Solids cannot be compressed. Liquids cannot be compressed. Gases can be compressed. Kinetic energy of particles is minimum in solid because they have a least force of attraction because the molecules of solids are closely packed, while the kinetic energy of particle is more than solid, and in the gases it is the maximum. The kinetic energy of particle is maximum, and particles of the solid cannot move, rather they vibrate only at their fixed position. But the particles of the liquid, they can slide over one another, while in gaseous, particles can move freely. Now the solids have highest density, while the liquid's density is lower than solid, and the gases have lowest density. And you know that density depends upon what? The density depends upon its mass, you can say that it's weight also. Now solids cannot flow, liquids can flow, gases can flow. Now the question arises, can matter change its state? Yes, matter can change its state also. Now, as you know that water exists in three states. Ice, which is a solid. Water is existing in the ice form, which is a solid. Water exists in water form, which is a liquid. Water exists in water vapor form, which is a gas. This is an indication that matter can change its states. Now, after the end of the first video, I just want to ask you some questions, and you have to do yourself these questions. These questions are based on whatever we have discussed today. So you have to do these questions in your notebook. Now the question first, what are the conditions for something to be called matter? Very easy question, children. You can do it, and I know you can do it. Now, why do gases neither have fixed volume nor fixed shape? Right now we have discussed all these things. So just give me that answer. How do the smell of food being cooked in the kitchen does reaches us even from a considerable distance? Now think about that smell. Smell is what kind of matter, and how that when it is cooked in the kitchen, it reaches us in our bedrooms also, wherever we are studying. Now the fourth question is what? Explain why does diffusion occurs more quickly in gases than in liquids. And do you know what is diffusion? Diffusion is what? Just right now I'll discuss the diffusion in next video, but right now I'll give you some hint that diffusion means the mixing right now, just mixing of two particles, you can say, and that it occurs more quickly in gases than in liquids. Why it happens like that? Now children, this is the end of the first video.